So I'm busy trying something different. My recording. All I'm doing at the moment is I'm recording using my camera, and I've got a ring light over there to give me a little bit more light and give me that contrast, that cinematic contrast. So what I want to do is I want to try this for a while and see what kind of traction I get on it. Now, normally what I do is I set up my cameras and I set up all the lighting and I set up the studio, and it takes a bit of time. So what I am going to do every weekend is just to give a feedback on some of the football that I have seen, and do it raw without any editing. Just do it as is, and then submit it and see what kind of response I get on it. If it's good, bad, ugly, it really doesn't matter. And guys, give me your honest opinion. So what I actually wanted to talk about today was the Manchester United Crystal Palace game. Now everybody knows that anybody who's been watching this channel knows that I'm not exactly a Eric Ten Hag fan. Initially, when he came in, I thought it was a good appointment. The way he brought discipline into that team, I thought it was a good appointment. And I was very happy for it because the team seemed to be rudderless for quite a long time, and there seemed to be a lot of indiscipline in that team. So came in and he put on the discipline within the team, it was a breath of fresh air. So in his first season, he wasn't that bad. I mean, he won the Carabao Cup. He ended third in the league, and everybody was ranting and raving about Ten Hag. And I can understand why people were going in on how good he was, because of the fact that one, the discipline had come back into the team. Two, he got them back into the Champions League, and three, he won a cup. But so did Jose, so did Van Gaal. So nothing new there. But even in his first season, I thought that there was certain areas that he seemed to be lacking. And I put it down as first season in the Premier League, coming from the Eredivisie, where he dominated with the best players in the division. So he could go to teams and dominate. When you come to and you play in England, it's a different kettle of fish. The game is much faster. Anyone from 1 to 20 can win on any given day. So there's no easy games going in. And I was happy to, well, not happy. I kind of gave him that leeway. I said, well, okay, let's see how he does in season two. So there were already worrying signs in season one, but like I said, I thought, well, okay, I'll give him some leeway. Season two last year was really, really pathetic. I mean, that was bad. To finish eighth as Manchester United, to spend the type of money that he spent on that team, and to finish where he finished, was really not a good advert for what Manchester United is and what Manchester United stands for. Now, I know a lot of you guys fought with me on that one. A lot of you came up with the reason that he had a lot of injuries. And yes, he did have a lot of injuries. With the reason that he didn't have a good top structure or solid top structure to manage under. Well, he's got it this year. But I agree with you, he didn't have it last year. But then so have a lot of managers that had a lot of injuries. Newcastle, for example, last year had a ton of injuries. And yet they managed to play attractive football. So, okay, let's admit that Eric Ten Hag had a lot of injuries, and yes, his backline was decimated. I mean, it really, really was bad with the amount of injuries he had. But what came out of it was that unless he has his strongest team, he can't make do with what he has with what's left, whereas other managers could. So, okay, give him that. Not, I'm not going to be too harsh on him there. But again, I think tactically, he does seem to struggle. Every so now and then, he'll come up he'll come up against a manager who would totally outplay him in the tactics portion of the game. And if I look at some of the games where he's made some decisions, his choices hasn't been that great. He's the way he puts the players out there, how he has them playing, there didn't seem to be a pattern or style. So you never knew what Manchester United were. Were they attacking team? Were they playing out from the back? Were they a side that held on to the ball the way Pep Guardiola's teams do? Boring. But there wasn't that. there was no sense as to what style of football Manchester United wanted to play. This year, I see a difference. And again, I'm not saying I'm still Ten Hag in or I'm Ten Hag out. Frankly, if Manchester United were to fire Ten Hag this year, I wouldn't be one of those individuals crying into my tea because Ten Hag has been replaced. I will be one of those individuals if they replace him with Gareth Southgate, but that's a different video. So this year, what I am seeing is I'm seeing a lot different, a lot better, a much better, should I say, a much better Manchester United. They're playing out from the back. There's a lot more possession. They're happy to go backwards to go forwards, if you know what I mean, which I think is very, very important. So hanging on to the ball is quite good. But there's still, and I say but, there always is a but. He still seems to be making some of those mistakes. If I look at today's game, he was doing exceptionally well for about 70 minutes. And every manager makes substitutes. It has to happen purely because you bring on fresher players with fresher legs in a game where the defense is getting tired, and you get those players to run at them. And bringing on Rashford, in my opinion, and if it was me as a manager, I would have brought Rashford on. Probably would have started with Rashford, but that's a different story. Especially with Rashford's confidence being where it is at the moment, it's been on the up. So bringing on Rashford wasn't a problem. Taking Xerxes off, to me, just did not make sense. And the reason why I say it didn't make sense, Xerxes is a type of player that links the front line to the midfield. He's not a run beyond to get like a Hoyland would do. He'd come towards the ball, link the play up, and the player and the game would look, or the team would look a much more cohesive unit, as opposed to hitting the ball over the top and getting your speedsters to run at the ball. So taking Xerxes off didn't make sense. Putting Rashford into the central striking role with Hoyland didn't make sense. Then he put Rashford onto the left, so I got no idea, was Garnacho supposed to come over to the right? Because at one stage I saw them both running on the left-hand side. But be that as it may. So that choice of changing the player didn't make sense. Where he was very brave, and I give him this, was he actually played Eriksen. I didn't think he'd play Eriksen twice in 5 days, purely because of Eriksen's age and probably doesn't have the legs. But it was a brilliant stroke of genius because Eriksen played exceptionally well, which means that his passing was what was getting the team playing on the front foot. But then you pull Eriksen off, and that didn't make sense to me either. Bruno, I'm a massive Bruno fan. I'm probably, there's two players that I'm a massive fan of that I find criticism around very difficult. One of them is Bruno, and the other one was David de Gea. And I'll get to Onana now. Where the frustration with Bruno comes in at the moment is, or in today's game, was the fact that he tries to force the pass. As captain, sometimes you've got to take care of the ball. And there are instances where he takes care of the ball, but I think he gets frustrated and he gets irritated and he gets impatient, and that's the reason why he plays some of the balls that he does. But I also think that this flicking with the outside of the foot, flicking the ball around the corner, some of that in a very, very tight game, you need to be a lot more careful as to what you do with the ball. He had a golden opportunity to score a goal. He tried to hit it with the outside of his foot. I don't understand it. One, let the ball roll across you and hit it. Or two, hit it with your left foot if you want to take the ball quicker, if you want to take the shot quicker and catch Henderson unawares, which he actually did, but the ball flashed wide. So to me, that was a bit of a frustration in the changes, and then where he applied the changes, and then certain key players not quite playing to their fullest potential. And I understand that you can't play game in and game out to your fullest potential. So yeah, and then the funny thing is that Manchester United could have actually lost this game. And the reason why I say lost this game, Onana came up with a brilliant double save. Now, if it wasn't for Onana, Manchester United probably would have lost that game. Yes, Henderson had a brilliant game. He had 7 good saves. But if you're dominating the game and you're having that many shots on target, which, by the way, is a massive positive to Ten Hag's team. Last year, they hardly had any shots on target. It was ridiculous. They would average, I think, 2 shots on target, which was not good. Their goal difference was horrendous. So the team is going in the right direction, and I believe that you need to give Ten Hag a little bit more time and be a little bit more patient and see what happens. However, my gut feel is that if he continues not to go past teams like Palace and he gets up against the better teams and he starts losing, it's going to be negative against him, and they probably will replace him. That said, I mean, this is a Palace team that turned Manchester United over twice last season. In fact, at Selhurst Park, excuse me, at Selhurst Park, they put 4 past Man United last season. So it wasn't that bad, but some of the play was a little bit puzzling. Your last 20 minutes or your last 15 minutes and you're holding the ball at the back, the ball would come out to De Ligt. He would pass it on to Martinez. Martinez would stand and look around and then pass the ball back to Onana. And that happened quite a bit. They were passing the ball amongst themselves in the back. And I kept thinking, Manchester United of old, under Sir Alex Ferguson, not the previous managers, they would go after the game. They would try and get the goal. They would pour into the opposition half and try and force that goal. There didn't seem to be any urgency. Now, it could be that Martinez, one or two things is happening. Martinez gets the ball and there's nobody to pass to. So there's nobody showing for the ball. If Xerxes was there, Xerxes would have shown for the ball. If Eriksen was there, Eriksen would have shown for the ball. They took them off, and all of a sudden it was a lot more difficult for him to find passes going forward. So the only thing he could do was pass it back to Onana, which was extremely frustrating. Or he's lost some confidence and he's now struggling to play out from the back. So I'll be very interested to watch him a lot more closer within the next 2 and 3 games, just to see if he improves on that. So, and also what kind of players he has in front of him that is playing with him. I think Ogati picked up that there was no movement and he started coming back for the ball when he came on. But by then it was too late. I mean, they kept the ball. It seemed like they were happy for the draw. The other reason why I think Erik ten Hag is lacking when it comes to tactics is that Crystal Palace dropped in another midfielder, okay, to shore up that midfield. And they looked like they were playing for a draw. They were quite happy to walk over the draw, and I don't blame them. But once that happened, Ten Hag didn't have an answer as to how to bypass it and how to get past that. So while there was a lot of space in midfield and his players could pour into midfield, it all dried up when there wasn't any space then in midfield to get the ball to his front players. So in my opinion, the jury is still out on Erik ten Hag. I'm not a Ten Hag in or a Ten Hag out at this moment in time. I still don't believe that he's the right manager for this job. But I would be happy to be proven wrong. And believe me, I'll be the first one to congratulate and sing his praises once his team starts winning on a regular basis. So there you go. There you go, guys. I've tried a new format. I'm going to try and do this every weekend where I'm just going to shoot off the cuff without a prepared script on various teams, not just Manchester United, and just give you my honest, raw opinion. So this is the raw section of my channel. Thanks for hanging out. This is Insight with Zaid. Cheers.